How does a California landlord handle entry into a tenant's unit where there's known animals? Hi, my name is Rob Wells. I'm the Landlord Warrior on TikTok and YouTube. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to our videos. Now, I got this comment here. It looks like it's a resident tenant. They have a dog. I guess a property manager is attempting to notice an entry into the rental unit. I don't know for what purpose, okay? Let's assume that it's a lawful purpose, such as it's to address a repair issue, okay? This is a common type of question or scenario that we run into a lot here, okay? And sometimes, and I get the flavor from this comment here that maybe landlord and tenant have butted heads together, okay? And you know, there's difficulty on both ends trying to coordinate getting entry into the unit. Okay, now let's go for the repair context, because this is usually what usually happens. And there's some type of repair that's requested, or that there was a complaint made by the tenant that, hey, something is broken. Okay, landlord says, okay, let's go in and check it out and fix it. Okay, but then the two parties butt heads with each other. They can't figure out, like, coordinate mutually together to, get entry to get the thing done and fixed. Okay, so let me address something with both sides, okay, real quick, okay, because my approach is to try to see how we can solve the problem. Okay, and usually I tell a landlord, let's try to coordinate with everyone, tenant and so forth, to get in mutual dates and times to get in, with like hour blocks, okay? Because a lot of vendors work, like in 2 to 4 hour bands of time, okay? It's particularly like for like appliance delivery or and that type of deal. I usually ask residents, hey, listen, we're trying to get the guy out here as quickly as they can. They can come out here in 2 days from now or tomorrow or whatnot. Okay, if that won't work out, what are some time bands you can give me? Can the guy come later this week? Can he come? They got time blocks between 8 to noon to 4, etc. here. Okay, give a lot of different options. Okay, maybe 90% of the time you can get on the same page with someone. Tenant's gonna let you in, especially if it's a needed repair, right? You get that coordinated and done. But sometimes the landlord butts heads. Well, my guy's only available at this time, okay, and or whatnot. Or the tenant is like, hey, I work all the time and X, Y, and Z, and I get everyone's busy, okay. I'm only available for this like 1 hour block, like on a Thursday, okay. Both parties probably in court. I always tell folks, try to act reasonably, okay? Because when you think about it, if you guys can't figure it out, you're sending some other person, like a judge or someone, to look at, okay, what's reasonable here, okay? And landlords, I usually try to want to be, listen, we want to appear as reasonable as possible here. We want to offer different options and so forth within reason. Sometimes depending on the necessity of the repair kind of might dictate, or the complexity of it may dictate, limit our options here. Okay. But you want to appear to be reasonable and offer reasonable solutions depending on the circumstances, okay? And that's where, if you're having trouble with yourself doing this, legal counsel might be able to help you out, okay? So if we can't coordinate that stuff, by ourselves here, at that point in time, I tell landlords, we need to probably start doing things by the book and in written notice format, pursuant to Civil Code Section 1954, okay? And I don't like to generally notice entry into a unit. I usually like to get consent with everyone, so we're on the same page. We document that, in a text and so forth. But if you're not getting cooperation, like maybe the tenant's allowing their dog to roam around, won't give us reasonable times to get the necessary repair done, then at that point, you're kind of forcing the landlord's hand to posting written notice to go inside, okay? Pursuant to Civil Code Section 1954, it's presumed reasonable entry to go into a residential unit with at least 24 hours notice. Okay. Obviously, a landlord doesn't need notice to enter in on a true emergency, like there's like a busted water main and it's like flooding the apartment complex, that type of deal. You don't need notice to enter, but I generally like noticing entry during the weekday hours, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 p.m. The reason why I say that is, guess what's open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 p.m., excluding holidays, is the court. Okay, so if I can't get your cooperation and documented that appropriately, now I got to move to the notice. Okay, so I don't like noticing people. I had some landlords notice people on the weekends or like at odd hours. I try to stay away from that. Okay, if at all possible. All right. To get entry. Okay, and if the dog after trying to work it out with the tenant and trying to, be reasonable, and they issue notice and they have a dog, and I'm talking about like, dog, it depends. We got small dogs, we got big dogs. We got a big old dog barking and growling and stuff, like pit bull type deal. I'm not going in. Okay, I'm going to document that. And what this questioner may not like what I have to say here, you're probably going to get a 3-day notice to perform, about a level citing out like, hey, we tried to work with trying to schedule this repair and so forth, and that has failed, and we issued a written notice. At the time we tried to enter the property, there's a big dog barking and stuff. I'm not advising my property manager or landlord to go get hurt. Okay, if someone's actively, telling me you can't enter the property, or there's something that's preventing the landlord for lawful entry, such as there's a big old dog that's not secure, that type there barking and growling and stuff, we're leaving. Okay, and you're going to get a 3-day notice to perform, and it's going to tell you, hey, I need you to cooperate. We need to get this repaired. This is something that was reported to us that needs to be addressed. If there's failure to give access at that point after the 3-day notice to perform is issued, the tenant has likely committed a violation of Civil Code Section 1954 and a material term of most lease agreements. Okay, because usually there's a cooperation clause in most lease agreements that, hey, if landlord needs to make a necessary repair, the tenant's going to cooperate, that type of deal, and you're going to be subject to just cause eviction at that point. So hopefully everyone can work everything out, but sometimes building these like notice issues, that type of deal, you may need documentation. You may need to have, everything should be written out, documented. So if you do end up in court, that you have a good record of what has gone on, what were the circumstances and so forth. So your legal counsel can help you through any type of just cause eviction for that purpose. Okay. So landlords, if you're facing this situation, don't go about this by yourself. Get some help. Having a strategic approach is probably the best way of handling these things and being reasonable. Okay, because going to court, no one costs time, money. No one wants to be there. But if you have to go, you have to go. Okay. Put your comments, questions down below. I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. Until next time, folks, I'll talk to you then. Thanks.